Broadcasting from the BetMGM studio, it's time for Inside the Jets. Brought to you by EY, building a better world. Now, here's Bart Scott and Dan Graca.
And we welcome you to another edition of Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. I'm Dan Graca. That's former New York Jet linebacker Bart Scott. And Bart, not a good day at the office for the Jets once again yesterday in the home opener against the 49ers, dropping a 31-13 decision. Second straight time this year, they've dug themselves a 21-3 hole at halftime. Not the starts that certainly they drew up so far here in 2020.
Well, you know, they couldn't get off to a worse start, right? You talk about first play, 80 yards, untouched. You know, and this is the chemistry thing. This is the not having a preseason. This is not having a traditional training camp. Being able to understand what my fits are and everybody understanding how important they are, the piece of the puzzle when you're trying to break a play down. You looked at what, you know, San Francisco was able to do. They were able to get a hat on a hat, but also get 2 for 1. And you never want to do that. On defense, what makes defense so much easier to play is that essentially it's usually 10 on 11, right? So usually the offense has 10, he hands the ball off, and then it's 10 on 11, the quarterback's not involved. But what happens if you don't have the proper fits, you're not playing to your leverage and being able to play complementary defense, you have untouched 80-yard runs. Now, I thought they settled down after that, but you can't put yourself in a hole, especially when you're playing the defending NFC champions, and they've been together, they have chemistry, and we're trying to piece it all together. You know, I thought Davis, you know, the rookie, he's learning a very key lesson, not being able to get stuck on blocks. You know, that's what college players have to realize, understand that's the hardest thing to transition, because now you have these grown men that aren't trying to push you away. What they really try and do is they pull you to them. Because if I pull you to them, a referee can't see that I'm holding you, can't see that your shirt isn't stretched out. And those like learnable moments, being able to take the arm over, get over the elbow, pull it down. Those are all things, because in college you're so much more athletic than everybody. You can get away with those deadly sins. But in the league, they can cost you 80-yard touchdown. I thought Quentin Williams flashed.
Played well.
And he played very well. I think it's his best game as a pro.
Disruptive in the backfield. Those are the things that, you know, certainly he was as advertised coming into the league. You wanted to see more from him, and he flashed that very early in that game yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a teachable moment, too, for him, you know, afterwards, the interview, things like that. That's something that he has to learn from and understand.
I think he did watch the film, though, today.
Yeah, he watched the film, right?
He promised he would.
He promised he would. I want to report on what he saw in the film, because I want to get back to the follow-up. But, you know, those are all part of, like, the frustrating, you know, parts of being in New York media, that everything is going to be able to be seen. There's always a camera watching. There's always somebody listening, and always somebody that's able to kind of legislate or be able to litigate, the follow-up question. You know, because not the first one that's setting you up, but it's a follow-up. But he did a great job in getting penetration, being disruptive, and finishing. You know what I mean? It's one thing to get there. We've seen Quentin get there but not be able to finish. He was able to finish, and it's something to build on. And guess what, Quentin? Now that we've seen it on tape, now that's what we expect. You just set, not your ceiling, you just set our floor. And the floor for you is being disruptive and being able to capitalize and make big plays, timely plays. And, you know, I think, you know, that's something that we can build on, and that's what you have to start. You got to start with the positives, and he was definitely a bright light.
All right, let's get more on Sunday's game from Jets senior reporter Eric Allen and former New York Jets tight end Anthony Beck. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to the Jets 2-minute drill. Eric Allen with Anthony Beck. Anthony, the Jets dropped their home opener by a 31-13 score to the San Francisco 49ers. Never a good sign when you give up an 80-yard touchdown on the first play from scrimmage.
Yeah, you're right. You know, not the way you want to start a football game. You're coming out, you're trying to set the tone defensively. And, you know, there were a lot of great tackles behind the line of scrimmage, but that first play sometimes takes a little bit of the will out of what you're doing, and it doesn't set really the standard you want throughout the game, and it never really came to fruition for the defense in this game.
Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. The Jets did some good things in the first half. They were converting on third down. They were moving the football. And I thought the game really changed at 14-3 when the Jets were inside the red zone. 3rd and 1, Frank Gore stopped, and then 4th and 1, Josh Adams was stopped, and they never got close again.
A couple things on that 4th down play. You know, clearly you can't whiff on a block on the inside. You give a linebacker an opportunity to get a free hit on the back. You know, when it's 4th down and 1, 3rd and 1 crunch time situations, you got to hone into your technique and the details, and you got to understand that you got to secure the line of scrimmage so you give your back a chance. And that was huge, obviously, because you're trying to gain back momentum in the football game.
But Quinnen Williams with the first 2-sack performance of his career. And then offensively, I thought Frank Gore, albeit 37 years old, gave this offense a jolt.
He did. I mean, you saw the different types of run plays being called in the football game. Everything was between the tackles. He was able to spring and get a couple nice chunk yards and plays.
Berrios' first scoring reception of his career in the closing seconds. I thought that play was a perfect example of what Darnold can do when the play breaks down. It looked like he was going to go down for a sack, and he finally puts it in the end zone for the Jets.
Yeah, you know, you love the fact that he keeps pushing and going. I mean, he's a competitor. There's no doubt about it. You would expect that from him. I expect that from him. But I think overall in this football game, you do take that as a positive, but you have to find ways to generate some offense and do some things early on in the football game. And be quite honest with you have to have complementary football as well. Special teams, defense, offense, all have to be meshed together. When the Jets figure that out, things will be fine. But as we see games in the NFL, regardless if you're the Jets or anybody else, if you're one-sided or your one side is not on the same level of what you're playing and you can't help each other and work off each other, you find yourself in holes, and that's what the Jets did today versus the 49ers.
Anthony, thanks for your time.
You got it.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by Jets left guard Alex Lewis. This is Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. And welcome back to Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. And our player guest segment is also presented by EY, building a better world. And we're pleased to be joined now by starting left guard for the New York Jets. He's Alex Lewis, who's nice enough to give us some time here on the program. Alex, Dan Graca, Bart Scott here on Inside the Jets. Thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts 24 hours after the defeat to the 49ers?
24 hours after the game, right after the game, you're usually, emotional. You got a lot of emotions running. You're watching tape right away. But when you separate yourself time from the game, then you can look back and be your own worst critic. That's when you start pushing emotion aside, and then you can look at tape and break it down and see what you guys did well as a team and what we didn't do well as a team. And then you break it down individually and say, all right, how do I get better? When plays I won, it's like, all right, I'm not just checking, say, oh, I did my job there. It's, oh, how do I fit my hands better? Or how do I run my feet faster? And then plays you lost, it's like, all right, let's correct where I got beat. If it's an overset as a lineman, or if it's not the proper route as a receiver, and so on down the list. So 24 hours after the game, it's just, you got to be your own worst critic at this point.
Well, you talk about early in the season, there's times in the preseason and, OTAs, training camp is really when you get your timing going and start being able to get your technique right. How hard is it to kind of be having live bullets, so to speak, and still didn't have the time, the acclimation period, one, to be able to work on those skills and get the timing right, and also to be able to get chemistry with your teammates so you can have that nonverbal communication. We all know that the offensive line is usually the closest group on the football team, but also they're the ones that take the longest to gel as a unit.
Oh, 100%. And, this just goes back to just how we played in college. You never had a preseason in college. It was live bullets right off the rip. So, you just got to take that adversity and overcome it and get ready to go and do it at a very high level. As a top world-class athlete, you got to be able to go when bullets are flying and, make adjustments and move forward. So, but, when it comes to chemistry, I think our O-line's really clicking. It's the team within the team as an O-lineman, as we like to say. And we're taking it one play at a time, one day at a time, and just focus on what's important now, that WIN acronym. And you just got to attack each day with the mindset you're just going to go to work, bring your lunch pail and go to work.
Now, I feel like you're in a unique position because this is you're one of the only guys to kind of hang over from the last regime or from the unit last year, but also you have a rookie that's a little green left of you. He has tons of potential. So how are you trying to create that balance between farming your own land, but also playing the role of veteran, trying to coach up the rookie about what he can do better, and kind of that unit within the unit, left side, strong side?
My job personally that I took on was, being one of the only guys as a carryover from last year, is understanding the playbook much better. And, I'm trying to help that rookie out as much as I can so he's not thinking. I'm trying to be out there, giving alerts when guys are slanting, seeing if I see a tip, if I see a TE or an ET coming, just so that young man can go out there and play fast, physical, and dominate. And, he's done a great job for us so far, and we're only going to get better every day.
As Darnold's back to throw again, under pressure, avoids a sack, scrambling to his left, looks downfield, throws one. Berrios makes the catch at the 10, at the 5, and he's in for a Jet touchdown.
For more of the green and white, let's toss it to the voices of the New York Jets. It's my pals Bob Wischusen and Marty Lyons. Take it away, guys.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Marty, this is a really tough start for the Jets, and the opposite of way that I'm sure they wanted to start after a 6-2 finish last season. They're just not playing well enough in any of the three phases right now to get a win in this league, especially against good teams. What has to happen for them to right this ship?
Well, first of all, Bob, I think you got to look at the personnel. I don't know if they have the personnel on the offensive side of the ball to try to keep them in the game, especially if they find themselves playing from behind. Remember, there were 7 new starters last week on the offensive side of the ball up in Buffalo, 5 new starters on the defensive side of the ball. Today, they kick off to the 49ers, the very first play, 80-yard touchdown run. Within 12 seconds, you've spotted the 49ers 7 points. Then you're playing from behind. You go in at halftime again. The score is 21-3. You can't really establish any tempo, any sort of continuity, any sort of chemistry within a game. And anytime you get down by 21 points in the NFL, it's hard to come back.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm, isn't it? That you're playing with very little to no margin for error because of all of the injuries that you've got. You're 4 deep at wide receiver. Your best running back is out. I mean, the top 4 skill position players on your offense are all not playing. So going in, you really have no margin for error, and then you give up an 80-yard touchdown on the first play of the game. You give up a 55-yard run on 3rd and 31. You're really only running back probably gives you a legitimate chance to get a first down on 4th and 1, comes out of the game in Frank Gore. It's a practice squad running back going forward on 4th and 1. So all of that added on top of the injuries, you need an answer somewhere to counter all of the things that are going wrong, whether it's really good players coming back and getting healthy, or the guys that you've got playing mistake-free football. They're just not getting either of that right now.
And you know what, Bob? The only other thing that you could do is try to simplify the game plan and try to build a game plan around the talent that you have. But the talent that you have on Sunday can quickly change, as we saw it happen today. You have healthy individuals. Next play, you go from being a backup to being a starter, and you have to be able to make that adjustment on the fly. You're 0-2. You really haven't found out who you are. You've built no identity. You have no confidence. The only way you get confidence is you got to win, and you got to get ready to play the Colts next week on the road.
Yep, well, that will be our next broadcast on the radio, and the Jets, I'm sure, would be very anxious to get on the field in Indianapolis against the Colts and try and right this ship. So that will do it for us. We'll go back to you guys.
Coming up, we'll have more with Alex Lewis. This is Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. And welcome back to Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Dan Graca alongside Bart Scott. And we continue with our player guest segment, presented by EY, building a better working world. And we're chatting, of course, with Jets left guard Alex Lewis. What was the atmosphere like yesterday at the stadium for you, Alex? Home opener, normally there's that pageantry and the fans and the tailgating and the noise and the JETS, but none of that was around yesterday. As a player, what did that feel like for you?
It feels like a heightened practice. When you don't have that fan, that energy, you don't got something to feed off of. So as a player, you got to be your own self-igniter, and you got to bring the energy yourself. Whatever you got to do, whether it's listening to music, some guys like looking at their playbooks before a game. Some guys dance, other guys put their head in a towel and just get their mind right. And you got to come out there ready to play football. At the end of the day, it's a Sunday, and you got to go out there and win.
Who's the little fire starter for you guys? Usually every unit has that guy that goes out and kind of starts the fight. He's the agitator. He's the energy guy. Who's that right now for you guys? Or are you guys still trying to find out who's the guy that's going to bring the juice?
Are you talking about on the offensive line or the team?
Offensive line.
Yeah, I would say George Font is a great captain that we voted, and he's a very passionate guy, and everyone wants to be up there on his level and match it. And I think he's a great guy to have in our room.
What about another year playing with Sam? Now he's in his third year as a quarterback, second year playing with you. Have you seen that development, that progression, him being more of a leader in that huddle and taking ownership of that offense?
Absolutely. Sam's grown leaps and bounds since the start of last year. His ability to recognize when he's hot, when they're bringing more numbers than we can block, has been outstanding. His leadership role has really elevated, being a vocal leader when it comes to getting the energy going for guys in the huddle pregame, coming out at practice, making sure guys are locked in. He's stepping in the huddle, telling everybody to lock in, eyes on him. And I just love seeing that competitiveness come out in Sam. And he's going to grow, and he's got a long career in front of him.
Now, what does the off day look for you? Like, how does the body feel after 2 games? And, how do you kind of reset and get the body right? We all talk about, getting your mind right, but how do you, maintain your durability?
Cold tub, hot tub, Normatec, and repeat. And then, on the off day, I like to get away, just get my mind off football for that one day. So that way when I come back, I'm prepared, whether it's just taking the girl out to lunch or going out on the boat or hunting, just something to get away, take a 24-hour breather and then get right back into it on Wednesday.
How was the off season for you? Certainly the routine was probably a little bit different with the pandemic and everything. You couldn't maybe get into as much football, at least with your teammates in person. So how did you prepare for this upcoming season, given all the changes that were going on in the world?
I was very blessed. When I moved back to Arizona every offseason, I usually tend to live with a family member. I save a little money. And this offseason, I was living with my pops, and he trains linemen to get ready for the combine. And so when everything shut down, we had all the setup at the house. We got a turf field out there, full-on weight room, and I had a coach. So he was out there filming me, getting me ready for my footwork, hand placements. We're running O-line drills. We're getting after it in the weight room, and so I was very fortunate.
Well, Pops, knowing that you're making all this money now, did he send you an invoice?
He sent me an invoice for that turf.
Write it off, right? Oh, good.
Absolutely.
We saw on social media you posted that you are going to have a little girl here soon, so congratulations on that. When is the baby due?
February 6th, so I'm going to have to hurry up, once we win the Super Bowl, get back and see the delivery.
Fans like to hear that. Well, congratulations, of course, to you. I mean, what are your emotions? Excited, nervous a little bit, everything rolled into one? What has that been like for you?
Yeah, all the above, man. I don't know what to expect, especially with the little girl. Romy Ray Lewis is going to be her name. So I just hope, she's coming out healthy and everything looks good. And I'm excited to raise a little family.
Well, Alex, thanks for a couple of minutes today. We really appreciate it. Best of luck against the Colts coming up there on Sunday and the rest of the way, and we thank you for doing this.
Thank you, fellas.
That's all the time we have for this week's edition of Inside the Jets. I'm Dan Graca. He's Bart Scott.
See you next week, same time, same place, knuckleheads.
This is Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Take care, everyone.